from the local station. This is Weather Authority Weekday.
Well, good Tuesday morning, everyone. Meteorologist Chris Holtzman here. It's time for our Weather Authority Weekday stream, and we're tracking warmer temperatures, dry weather, and also increasing pollen levels, which I'm sure you noticed if you were outside. You certainly saw, especially on cars, some of that pollen building. Your allergies might be also going up, and well, we are expecting through the rest of the week more of that pollen. But in terms of our temperatures, this morning we were comfortable out there, at least compared to where we will be next week, because we're much cooler next week. But in the meantime, most of us were in the 40s and 50s, so still a bit cool, but that sunshine certainly made temperatures climb pretty rapidly after that. And a live look here over Jacksonville. We have a partly to mostly cloudy sky across our area, and we are tracking at least the temperatures on the way up, 62 already. Right, so that sunshine certainly works and warms us up rapidly. And we do have east-northeasterly wind at 8, so 66 is the current temperature right now. And a live look here once again over Jacksonville. Here's another direction. You can see that we do have more of that upper-level cloud cover, but temperatures once again in the 60s across our area. Now, in terms of those temperatures, again, we will be looking at an increase in cloud cover by tonight. High pressure is shifted offshore. We're starting to get an onshore wind, and as a result, with that onshore flow, that is allowing for temperatures to be a bit warmer out there. And notice no rain, though, with that front. That's the front, by the way, that'll cross our area later in the week and eventually could bring a couple of showers by the weekend. But some of us are already near 70. How about that? So quite a rebound with our temperature. Palatka's right around 70, 65 in St. Augustine, near 70 in Green Cove Springs. Upper 60s in Orange Park. We have McClenny at 68, 59 in Mayport. We have St. Mary's at 63, and you can see Brunswick also reporting 63 degrees. Waycross, we're in the 60s as well. Now, it is a bit breezy out there, but certainly makes it feel nice out there with the temperatures already near 70. And we should be in the 70s for the day today. So we're looking at high temperatures across our area, generally in the upper 60s to low 70s across the region. And high temperatures for the day today, we're looking at highs in the 60s and 70s. Again, no rain in sight as Futurecast is tracking our dry weather through the day today and also on Wednesday. And this dry weather, by the way, could lead to a historic wildfire season. In fact, in Florida, of course, our state here, we are tracking the threat for those wildfires. And let's take a look south at how they're dealing with the dry weather and the fire weather threat.
It looked like it just blew right through the cemetery, but it was scary, very scary.
Strong winds fueled a massive brush fire that burned hundreds of acres near Bethlehem Cemetery in Waimama.
Here, but there's still hot spots. It's still burning over here and in the woods.
For Brenda Eaton, this isn't just a cemetery that she helps manage.
Half the cemetery I'm related to, I think, out here, yeah.
Charred grass surrounds multiple headstones.
Yeah, it must have got really hot back here.
But the stones themselves appear to have minimal damage.
How did the flash survive?
A miracle, man.
Ruby Camacho and her daughter,
But it looks better now.
are cleaning away layers of ash and soot from their loved one's headstone.
We have our grandma buried here.
They feared the worst, but are thankful.
I just thank God that, that nothing had happened to her stone.
Extreme dry conditions are keeping fire rescue crews busy, not just in Hillsborough County. A burn ban is in place in every county in the Tampa Bay area, except Pinellas County.
Polk County Fire Rescue has responded to 170 brush fires. Out of those 170 brush fires, just for the month of February, there have been about 3,100 acres that have been burned.
And Polk County officials say it doesn't seem like the dry conditions are going away anytime soon.
This is going to be historical.
And those conditions in Polk County similar to here across our region, even into Georgia as well. So we certainly need to practice those wildfire safety tips as the dry weather will continue. A bit of a breeze will be around as well through the rest of the week into the upcoming weekend. But one thing to note is that temperatures at the same time will also be on the way up. We're looking at low temperatures tonight, generally in the 50s, so a bit more mild compared to where we were a couple nights ago. But the bottom line is that temperatures into the afternoon, we are looking at temperatures back into the 70s. And one thing to note is we will be looking at highs for tomorrow near 80. In fact, many of us, especially along and west of 95, will climb to right around the upper 70s to low 80s. It should be a beautiful day out there. We'll see partly to mostly cloudy sky, so we will see sunshine, and that will warm us up across the area. By the way, you will notice as well, high temperatures will continue to climb over the next few days. In fact, Futurecast shows starting out with some clouds, but then sunshine mixes in, a little overdoing on the cloud cover there. But you get the idea that we will have some sunshine around as well. Now, I do want to talk about the drought again because this will be updated on Thursday. So this is updated every week. Now, this does not take into account what we saw on Sunday. But again, the general trend has been that dry weather has been allowing the drought categories to continue to worsen and become more widespread in coverage across our area. So that darker red you see is an extreme drought, and that includes most of our viewing area. The only exception is into Georgia, where we do have a severe drought for some spots. But the bottom line is that we need a lot of rain to alleviate the drought. Some of us over 15 to even 20 inches of rain. And we just don't have much in the forecast. In fact, our rainfall deficit over the past 365 days, we are looking at some spots over 20 inches in deficit. Next 7 days, now you will notice, large part of our area isn't even highlighted in getting anything. There is a front that will approach by the weekend, but a lot of the moisture with it will actually fall apart before getting to us. So that's why you see a large part of Florida completely dry over the next week. And even if we do see a little bit of rain, it's again not enough. We need more than that. And the pattern overall looks fairly dry. So that's the thing we're looking at. That high pressure's offshore. There comes that front. Doesn't fully make it in. And by Thursday, you will see that we do have that southerly wind around, keeping those temperatures up. And then that secondary front, that's the front that will try to arrive by the weekend. But you notice that that southerly wind is really warming us up by the end of the week into the weekend. In fact, our temperature forecast shows in the short term, we are looking at those yellows, oranges, and reds, and that indicates temperatures in the 80s. One thing to note as well, if you look at the map by the end of the week, you'll see that little gradient here along the map, and there comes that front. So watch by Sunday, we start to see that northwesterly flow, and that'll drop temperatures by early next week. In fact, our temperature outlook generally near normal through the end of the month, so not a great signal of above or below normal temperatures, fairly seasonable with highs near 70. And when you look at the rainfall forecast, again, a slightly increased chance of seeing below normal rainfall, which of course we're certainly used to across our area as it's been very dry over the past couple of months. But I do want to alert you that we do have by the end of the week into the weekend a front on our doorstep. See all of that blue? That's the cold air, and I want to draw your attention to next week. So as we advance through Saturday, that front starts to cross our area by Sunday, and look at that colder air moving in from the north. So again, if you have any ideas to plant any plants, any crops or anything like that, you want to take note that we do have the potential for another freeze by early next week. And that is in association with temperatures dropping into the 30s, even some spots in the upper 20s. Tuesday morning looks like the coldest morning with temperatures in the 20s and 30s, and then we do start to warm up by the middle to the end of the upcoming week. But again, that colder air will be moving in, so even though it's going to be very warm the next couple of days, we do see a return back to below normal temperatures by the weekend and early next week. In fact, looking at our forecast, really not expecting much rain Thursday, even Friday. That 20 to 30% may be a bit too high, so we may have to adjust that by the afternoon as it looks fairly dry. But one thing we're looking at is near record high temperatures later in the week into the upcoming weekend, with highs by Wednesday near 80 degrees, low 80s on Thursday, and then by Friday we're in the mid to upper 80s with sunshine around, and then by Saturday low 80s, and then we do see a return back into the 60s. And even some spots by Monday, perhaps in the 50s, with overnight lows extended beyond Sunday night into Monday morning, back in the 30s and 40s. So colder temperatures around the way across the area. Well, that's a look at our local weather as those pollen levels continue to increase as well. Certainly not good news for the allergy outlook. But as we head to the national forecast, I'll have all of the details coming up in just a few minutes. We'll be right back. Everyone, well, let's take a look at weather across the country because warmer temperatures are around for the central and eastern part. In fact, 50s and 60s for many locations, even 70s for some of us as well. By the way, I want to focus in on that tornado threat we had over the weekend because there was a follow-up done on some tornadoes that touched down. In fact, families surveys the tornado damage during the outbreak, and this was out west, I believe, in Mississippi. So let's head over there to see how folks are dealing with the damage.
You know, we're just thankful that he spared our lives.
Two separate EF1 tornadoes touched down in Lincoln County late Saturday night into early Sunday morning. One of them ripping through Christopher King's backyard at his home off of Shell Oil Lane.
My wife began to notice a shift in the weather out, and we came and we took a good look and noticed that the rain began to twist. And by the time we can get in and get shoes on and all that, it was just an outbreak.
The tornado snapped trees, down power lines, and damaged homes. Because the tornadoes came through overnight, members of the community worked to move the trees that were down across Highway 583.
It was just a mess. It was, in the last few years, that's the hardest that my area has been hit as far as some type of wind event.
Once the sun came up, the Kings were able to fully assess the damage.
That's our usually our garden area here, and so it tore all that down. All these pines here is usually, like I said, it's usually a whole row of those big pines, but you can see there that they're laying down.
There have been no reported fatalities or injuries so far.
We were certainly grateful for that. So, I mean, as long as everybody's safe, you know, we can certainly replace items. We can't replace people. So
we're Christian, we're God-fearing people, and so we just rely on God's protection.
Yeah, so certainly damage out there. Fortunately, we did not see any damage over our area, at least in our viewing region. We did have some wind reports across the panhandle, but no tornadoes or anything like that. But again, temperatures across our area are warming up across the region. Out west, though, it's a different story. And the big story has been some spots out west are getting more snowfall than what they've seen all season. And look at all of the moisture moving in. We had flash flood warnings in California yesterday, so higher elevations could see over 1 to 3 feet. Again, that's feet, not inches, of snow accumulation. In fact, California, portions of the Sierra Nevada mountain range could see accumulations over or up to 8 feet. So for a breakdown of the weather across the West Coast, we're going to look at the severe weather impact and how that's going. So yeah, you could see right there as well some road closures, water being very high. And remember, those folks don't see as much rainfall during the year. But speaking of snow in Big Bear, snowfall has caused travel issues there with all of that snow falling, and it continues to fall. So let's head over there to see how folks are dealing with that.
Snow still coming down here in Big Bear, and the roads are icy. Snow covering the roads. Take a look. If you are driving through here, it's easy to get stuck if you don't have chains or cables on your tires. Take a look at this video that we took from on our way up here. A bunch of people getting stuck. Highway 18 or Big Bear Boulevard at this point is covered in snow. The road conditions really started to change between the 3,000 and 4,000 elevation level just before running springs. Caltrans has chain controls in effect for the 330 and the 18 for this exact reason. Those rear-wheel drive or front-wheel drive vehicles cannot make it with how icy and snowy the roads are up here right now. Caltrans making chains for those vehicles mandatory. We spoke with a couple of groups who thought they could make it without chains or cables, but ended up needing some help.
It's like icy and the snow got like melted into ice and got like flipped over and we can't move.
So we came for a long weekend and we were supposed to go down before the storm, but we got stuck.
We also spoke with a chain installer who lives here in Big Bear. He says locals have been looking forward to this snow.
We've been hanging on by a thread, those of us who try to make our living with inclement weather.
And you're happy about the snow?
Why, certainly, it's good weather. There's no such thing as bad weather.
But tonight, we're in a tough situation. What's going on?
This is pretty much, it's supposed to be standard every year, but you know, this is what we've been waiting for.
And that snow continues to fall out west again, up to 8 feet of snow expected across the Sierra Nevada mountains. Now, heading to Southern California again, we were just talking about this. We're expecting more rain, flash flooding run. Even yesterday, there was a severe thunderstorm warning for Los Angeles. Pretty rare for their spots to be issued under that, but that happened due to the wind as that rain was moving offshore. And then we also have widespread precip into the Rockies, which, by the way, when you think about the rainfall, it has been very dry across portions of Utah and also Colorado. In fact, it has not been a normal winter in Colorado. The snowpack in the state just fell to its lowest level ever for an early February reading. So that's pretty remarkable. And now the ripple effect is forcing some marinas to close before the summer boating season begins. Let's head over to Colorado with a look at that dry weather.
When you race, racing is like chess, and it's not low-level chess where you're just looking at what the next move is. High-level chess is looking at what you are 5 moves.
For Colorado sailors talking strategy for the upcoming season, this year's lake levels have already changed the game.
You know, I expect to see smaller numbers on the water, but I don't expect to see no racing.
Curtis Rist is the leader, or Commodore, for the Sailing Association of Intermountain Lakes.
We're primarily a support for all the clubs. We're not dictating how they race and when they race, but we're vehemently aware of what's going on.
Here's what's going on. The warm weather this winter has left Colorado with its lowest snowpack in nearly 40 years, which spells trouble for Dillon Reservoir in Summit County and all of the businesses and recreation that rely on it. Frisco Bay Marina says drought conditions will shut down boat slips and the boat ramp this summer, with seasonal staffing reduced by 17%.
And so there's a group sailing at Granby. We're seeing it obviously at Dillon. Denver Sailing Association races at Cherry Creek. I suspect we won't see as many keel boats in, and if we do, they'll go in and may come out really early.
The warm winter has already canceled several seasonal events around the state. That includes an ice fishing tournament in Oak Creek, ice racing on Georgetown Lake, and a pond hockey tournament in Keystone. Curtis says when it comes to water levels for sailing, it's a waiting game.
We're just kind of looking at the water and figuring out who's going to sail and who's going to race.
Yeah, so again, with all of that rain and the snow on the mountains, remember when it melts, it feeds off into those local rivers and lakes. And because there's hardly any snow over there, well, the water levels drop. And as you just saw, they had to cancel some events. So we're hoping we can get a return to a more active pattern. But it looks like across the Northwest, we're looking at a better chance for some rain. In fact, it looks like a system will bring a better chance of rain to portions of the Washington State and Oregon area. And eventually that activity will push east eventually into portions of Utah. But in the meantime, we are looking at a system tracking over the northern plains with wintry precipitation. And by the way, Utah, speaking of snowpack, well, it has fallen to a record low as dry weather has also affected that state. Let's head over there with a look at the latest snowfall reports.
New data from the Utah Snow Survey shows statewide snowpack has fallen to the lowest level ever recorded for this point in the season. As of the end of January, average snow water equivalent dropped below the previous record low since the beginning of the Snowtell era in 1980. Nearly a third of Utah's snow monitoring sites are now reporting their worst or second worst snowpack on record, with several major river basins, including the Weber-Ogden and Provo-Utah Lake regions, already setting new lows.
We only have about a third of the water content in our snowpack that we would see at a typical peak. So in other words, we need to make up about 2/3 of our winter in about 2 months.
And the problem isn't just how low we are, it's how far we're falling behind. Snowpack normally climbs steadily through February and March, but this year the curve has flattened out, meaning the gap between current conditions and normal keeps growing by the day. And the odds of catching up aren't looking great.
Every day our difference between normal gets worse. And so what we're really looking for is to start to catch up. Obviously, we don't want to be comparing to the previous minimum. We want to be catching up to normal or above, and the chances for that, unfortunately, are about 20% or lower at this point.
That has water managers watching spring and summer very closely. Reservoirs along the Wasatch Front are already running about 10% below normal for this time of year, and expectations for spring runoff are shrinking.
We are in, dire straits in terms of snowpack, and the reservoirs are about 10% lower than they typically are this time of year. Not expecting them to, fill. Right now we're looking at around probably for the Provo River Basin, 70, 75% runoff.
Terry says a hot, dry spring could drive water demand up quickly, but a slow start to warmer weather could buy some time. The message for now, conservation, but without panic.
We've had a couple normal years, it seemed okay, and then all of a sudden now everyone's thinking about it again. And I guess our message would be to just be thinking about it as much as is reasonable all the time, because again, it's an issue of insurance for us along the Wasatch Front. We live or die by our snowpack and reservoirs.
Yeah, so some of those states in the vicinity, Utah, Colorado, seeing below normal snowfall. And again, that has impact on the river levels and just really big economic drivers for those states, because folks usually go there in the winter to ski. But again, it's too warm to make snow. So we'll hope that the pattern changes. But again, time is starting to run out as we're starting to enter into the warmer months. But across areas east of there, we are keeping some rain in the forecast for the northern plains, with wintry precipitation from Nebraska and Kansas all the way up to Wisconsin and portions of Michigan. By the way, fire threat is high, and that's something that we talked about earlier locally, but even out west with that wind, look at the greatest overlap of winds. When you have the 30-mile-per-hour winds, humidity as low as 15%. That's an extreme fire spread potential right across Colorado, up into portions of Kansas and Nebraska. So high fire threat, not just here locally in Florida and Georgia, but out west. And looking at the temperature spread throughout the day today, again, some spots are running 20 to even 30 degrees above normal in the brighter areas. So we certainly are seeing a warmer pattern around. Temperature setup verifies that. So we have that trough in the west. That's where the jet stream is dipping. And then as it does so in the east, it rises, and that's a ridge of high pressure. So above normal temperatures can be expected not only for the day today, but into Wednesday, Thursday, and even Friday. We're keeping rain in the forecast for California, with the best area for rainfall and flash flooding right around LA over to San Diego, as that upper level system is bringing that moisture from the Pacific on shore. And then we are tracking another storm across the northeast in New England, for example. We're starting out Wednesday with some rain across southern New England, cold enough to the north. North of that warm front, it looks like some snow for portions of Massachusetts, up into New York State, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And speaking of Wednesday, well, we continue to see the warmer temperatures around for a large part of the country, with temperatures running about 20 to even 30 degrees above normal. And our temperature setup on Wednesday, very similar to what we are seeing today, with temperatures running above normal for the eastern part of the country. The next couple of days, again, very active to the west. But on Wednesday, you can see that system bringing some snow by the afternoon into the east. And then to the west, we're tracking above normal temperatures. And look at that, some snow for some of the mountains out in Colorado, also Utah. We certainly need that. And then by Wednesday, we're keeping relatively drier weather across the southeast, some rain off to the north, and then systems will continue to be around across the west part of the country, with an increased chance for some rainfall across the west coast. So certainly it seems like everywhere we're seeing either a drought, the wildfire threat, or even the threat for some rain and also flash flooding. So a little bit of everything across the country in terms of our weather outlook. Locally, though, again, we are expecting warmer temperatures around near record highs by Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then by the weekend, we are tracking slightly cooler temperatures by Sunday, with a chance for some showers. Not enough to put a dent in the drought. And early next week, the big threat, the cooler temperatures on the way. So we could see another frost or even freeze by Tuesday morning, with temperatures back into the 20s and 30s. And it looks like we'll warm up later in the week. But the big story, again, we're tracking the warmer temperatures to the cooler temperatures as we head into the next week. Of course, we'll be here with the latest information at noon and this evening. You can always get your forecast on air, online, and on the weather app. And we'll be here at the same time tomorrow with a look at the local and national forecast. I hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday.
See why every day more people are choosing News4JAX, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.